Welcome.
Hey, everybody,
Hey.
come on in. Come on in. I see some friends. Hey, y'all. Now, y'all know better. See, y'all shouldn't have let me share that link. I see some friends on here. I'm gonna really act up now.
You better.
Hey, Christine.
Hey, Danielle Fanfair, how are you?
Doing good. It's so good to see your picture and hear your voice.
I'm sorry I'm not on. I'm kind of in transit in between office and other office and stuff. So
No. You transition. We're here.
I'm here. Great to see you.
Good to see you too. Good afternoon, you guys. Let's get it started.
Alrighty. Well, thank you all for joining us. My name is Karis Adams, and I am the Engage Program Liaison. I assist with all things Engage, but before we get started, we have a few housekeeping rules, notes, all the same. Please remember to keep your microphones muted until prompted by the host. For questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, and if you want to remain anonymous, feel free to send me the questions directly, and I will ask them for you during the Q&A. We will drop a few links in the chat. They include a newsletter, websites, more information on Good and Fanfair LLC, and we thank Total Captions for their services today. We will also drop a bit.ly link in the chat for those of you who would like some Spanish translation. This will open up a separate window and it will run Spanish captions concurrently with Joshua and Total Captions in the Zoom. Andrea, I believe Andrea has a few words.
Yes. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much. So I am the Chief of Staff for Good and Fanfair, and I just wanted to go over some things with you all. So if for any reason at all this broadcast is interrupted, we will send you a brand new link to the email that you signed up with. Just as a reminder, the chat will be downloaded as a transcript, even the direct messages that you send privately back and forth. And then lastly, we'll be using the breakout rooms feature. So there's nothing that you have to do on your end. We will just direct you and put you in smaller rooms so that during this time, you can talk about what you've learned.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrea. So a few words about Mid-America Arts Alliance. Mid-America Arts Alliance strengthens and supports artists, cultural organizations, and communities throughout the region and beyond. We are a nonprofit regional arts organization representing Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Texas. We focus on strengthening communities and improving lives through extraordinary cultural experiences. The Engage program provides community-centered professional and organizational development that focuses on leadership training for small to mid-size arts and cultural organizations. Using a combination of workshops, coach consultations, and peer-to-peer learning opportunities, Engage works with participants to govern more effectively, become more fiscally astute, and develop strategies to address community needs. And that is why we need Danielle Fanfair, because we need community. We need to learn how to be well with ourselves so that we can be well with others. Danielle Fanfair has over 15 years of curating and directing integrated well-being experiences, professional strategic planning, multiple event production, strategy, coaching, and teaching adults. She helps individuals, groups, and organizations move from confusion to clarity, discovering who they truly are. During her career, she's learned and created useful tools for personal growth, problem solving, communication, increasing productivity, giving and receiving feedback, and building long-term professional relationships. She holds a BA in journalism and public relations from Baylor University and experiences as a conference and events planner, strategic director of vocational incubators, film producer, professional coach, and teacher. She does all the things, and today she's going to lead us through a workshop, Confusion to Clarity, Expanding Intelligences. Danielle?
Thank you so much, Karis. And I was just browsing the thumbnails as you all were sharing that information, and I'm just so grateful that you guys have chosen to join me. I also want to just say thank you so much to Kelly Willits, Dr. Willits, who is responsible for connecting me to you all and inviting me into this opportunity. So I'm very grateful to her, grateful to Houston Arts Alliance and the Mid-America Arts Alliance. Thank you guys so much for what you do for creatives, for what you do for the city. And I just want to stop and say that the arts, creativity, beauty has gotten us through 2020. So if you guys have anybody that's discrediting, dismissing, or demeaning the power of arts, just say 2020. 2020. The arts have gotten us through, from what we watch, from what we listen to live stream DJ sets, to our cities becoming outdoor museums with murals and outdoor installations, to drive-in movies, to movie theaters coming to us and showing us arts and films that are directly streamed through our devices and no longer having to go into a movie theater because it's no longer safe to do so. You name it, you know, from live performances, I even hosted some comedy shows via Zoom and they worked, you know. So for every single person who has had every single stress and anxiety, that person has gone immediately to some kind of artistic resource to relieve, to find comfort, to find pleasure, to find companionship, and to find some serenity. And so if you do anything connected to arts, whether you're an arts and whether you are an administrator of the arts, a creator of the arts, a curator of the arts, whatever you do, never discount, after this year, never no more discount the power of the artist during this time. As Toni Morrison said, when we feel all this angst and disappointment, this is when the artists go to work, right? We write, we draw, we do language. This is precisely the time that artists go to work. And so I just want to thank all the artists who have gone to work. And I'm really excited to be able to pour into you and help to restore some of your energy today. All right. So the first thing I want us to do is, I always want to start with a breath practice that just brings us into the room. You know, all of us thankfully have the ability to mute our cameras, to sit down, you know, with the AirPods or the earbuds or the headphones on. However, there are still conversations, text messages, emails. There are still people walking around wherever we are. There are still ways that we are not fully present. And I would love for us to take a moment just to come into the room. So would everybody just get comfortable in your seat, wherever you are. And I know some of you guys are in transition, so don't close your eyes if you're operating the vehicle, but get comfortable if you're in the driver's seat, okay? Do all the wiggling and twisting and moving that you have to do in order to get comfortable. And then I want you to just breathe in through your nose one time. And I want you to sigh it out completely out of your mouth. Breathe in through your nose one time. Sigh it out even bigger. Breathe in through your nose one last time. Breathe in. Now sigh it out completely. You should feel a little bit of whatever tension you've been holding starting to melt away. And then I want you to change the way that you're breathing to breathe in through your nose for a count of 4. Now breathe out through your nose to the count of 4. Breathe in through your nose. Breathe out through your nose. On your exhalation, I want you to pretend that someone has placed a little mirror underneath your nose. And if it's your job right now, the only job you have is to fog up that mirror. Breathe in through your nose. Now fog up that mirror. Breathe out. Breathe in through your nose. Fogging up that mirror. Breathe out. Now, if you can close your eyes, close your eyes. If you're operating a vehicle, do not close your eyes. However, go with me in your imagination. Just imagine that you're in a meadow. Seated across the meadow from you is a little chair that's in the clearing. Just imagine that you are barefoot in this meadow and you are making your way towards a chair that is way across the meadow. And the grass in the meadow is so, so soft and silky. And there are no bugs in this meadow. There are no prickly thorns or stickers to get you. You can just comfortably and confidently place your foot one in front of the other. And every time a thought pops into your head as you breathe and fog up that mirror, every time a thought pops into your head, I want you to imagine that thought springing out of your head and landing on the grass. And I want you to imagine the meadow just absorbing that thought. Those thoughts are biodegradable. So just imagine that meadow just grabbing the thought, and that grass reappears in the place where the thought was. And so every time a thought pops up, see that thought, that person, that thing, that place, that situation, just see it there, and then watch the meadow just absorb it. Continuing to make your way across the meadow towards the clearing, continuing to breathe, continuing to watch those thoughts spring forward out of your minds, and watching the meadow receive those thoughts, absorb those thoughts, and watching fresh grass appear in the place of the thought. Feel the temperature of your meadow, feel the breeze, feel the warmth of the sun. See the colors, hear the rustling of the leaves, see the grass, that velvety grass bending in response to the wind. Feel the beauty of using your own human power to cross this meadow. You should be coming closer to your chair that's at your clearing, allowing any remaining thoughts to spring out of your mind and be absorbed by that meadow. Now see yourself being lifted up by the wind and just being gently placed in that chair, now on the other side of that clearing. That chair is now where you sit, wherever you are. Take a few more of those deep breaths in through the nose and out through the nose. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And if you'd like to start your camera, I would love to see your faces. If you need to have your camera off, I respect and support you, and I think you should do whatever you need to take care of yourself. Good to see you guys. All right, so today we're talking about expanding our intelligences. Danielle, what does that mean? What that means is there are ways that our bodies are so intelligently designed, and oftentimes with the volume of change that we've experienced, with all there is to do, with all there is to think about, those of us who are caring for multiple people or animals or have priorities that compete, there are so many opportunities to really utilize our intelligences in a way that supports what we're doing that I want us to create some time for today. And I just want to acknowledge you for investing in yourself by joining us for this hour and 30 minutes. This is truly a time that you have carved out for you, and I celebrate and support you in that. So the first thing I want us to do is I want us to think about, well, what does it mean to define health? Just think about it. Just think about how you would define health. Like, what does health look like? What is a healthy person? What is healthy food? You know what I mean? And then, how do you define wellness, right? Like, how do you define health and wellness? What does that look like? Just think about your own response to that. And if you want to just write it down, you guys should have workbooks already emailed to you. So some of y'all can look ahead in the workbook. Yeah, I see you. I see you. So look at your own definition, your own words, right? And write that in your workbook if you're a writing person. If you're a person who likes to just listen, then that's fine too. But think about what health and wellness mean to you. Now, the World Health Organization defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. In other words, your health is much more than physical ailments. It's about emotional and social fitness too. And I wonder how different the World Health Organization's definition of health is from the ones that we thought about initially. Because when I think about health, I think about a certain weight. I think about certain type of clarity of the complexion. I think about strengths and ability, I think about abs, and the definition of abs, which I don't have. So, I'm like, if I can't see my six pack, then I guess I'm not healthy, you know. And so this is very different from my initial definition of health. So I just want you to just think about that and just hold space for if there's any difference, okay? It looks like health is more than just like one point. Health is not a weight. It looks like health is more of a state, right? So then look at the definition of wellness. Wellness is the active process of becoming aware of and making choices toward a healthy and fulfilling life, a dynamic process of change and growth. The two concepts are not opposites, but they go well hand in hand in one's quest towards complete well-being. So before we go another further, we're going to move into some breakout rooms, and I just want you with a buddy to spend some time answering the question, what was my definition of health and wellness? And what new thing or what resistance or what relief do these definitions bring me? And I'll put up the one, the definition of health again for you guys to look at. And then I'll look at the definition of wellness again. What differences, what new ideas, if it doesn't land, how doesn't it land for you? Go into break room, go into the breakout groups with a partner, and just for 1 to 2 minutes each, just talk about that, and then we'll bring you back. And our lovely Chief of Staff, Andrea, is going to move us into our breakout rooms. Good. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's good to see you again, T. So what I want us to talk about is, what does it look like for us to really think a little more critically about what wellness and health looks like. And when I'm talking about wellness and health, I'm not just talking about going into the gym and like pumping iron, I'm talking about this process. I'm talking about this way that we move through the world, the way that we steward our energy, and the way that we understand the world around us. Because the way that we understand the world often determines our stress levels as we move through the world, right? And so the other thing that I love to think about is this concept of integrity, the state of being whole and undivided. I think being divided in our bodies creates a lot of dissonance or disharmony. And there are ways that we can bring full integration of our different intelligence centers in a way that allows us to live undivided and live with integrity. And so we're not going to kind of do a group share with this, but just think about on your own, what are you living in integrity to? What are you completely connected to? What words, priorities, values are you living in integrity to? And they could be positive or they could be not so positive. We all have to start at a place of inquiry around what we are living in integrity to, so that we can begin to notice things that we want to change and shift, right? And how is my contribution as a creative directly connected to my health and wellness? And I have news for you. We're all creatives. We all create something. Whether your creation is a spreadsheet, a visual art piece, a performance art piece, whether your creation is, whether you think it's considered an art discipline or not, you are a creator. You create something, even if it's just energy. You circulate an energy when you come into a room and you create a vibe. And so how is my contribution as the creator that I am directly connected to my health and wellness? This is something that we should be thinking about, because oftentimes we get stuck. Oftentimes we are feeling stagnated, and that feeling is directly connected to our health and our wellness, our well-being. So I want to talk about the intelligence centers today. Did you know that our bodies are so intelligently designed? I think about our bodies almost like a supercomputer, and I call it our divine technology, because there's this beautiful way that our bodies work together that we can mindfully access for information as we innovate and make our contribution to the world. Well, what do you mean? I mean, we have 3 brains in our bodies. Not just the brain that's actually in our skull, like in our cranium. We actually have 3 brains. And our head brain, our thinking brain, is actually divided into 3 portions that correlate with the other 3 brains in the body. The other 2 brains in the body. First of all, the brain that everybody thinks about initially is one of our brains, our head brain, our thinking brain, our mind, right? But then we have a second brain, our heart, which is also our feeling brain. And did you know that there is an intrinsic network of electrical tissues that is situated at the back of your heart next to your spinal column? And that little cluster of tissues sends information from your heart up your spinal column to your brain, and then down from your brain, down that spinal column to the heart. So the brain is walking through the forest, and the brain, through the eyes, looks and sees a tiger, and the brain sends impulses down that spinal column to that cluster of electrical tissues that says, hey, we need some more blood, and we need you to start pumping because we see a tiger and it's time to run. Until the brain and the heart start to work together to create more blood being oxygenated through the body so that we can be free from that tiger, right? So that brain that is in your head communicated with the brain that's in your heart. And a lot of folks call it the heart of hearts. And my mom used to say this when I was little. You know, in your heart of hearts that you really didn't, mean that you didn't know that answer. My mom would always talk about the heart of hearts. And so I was so excited to tell her, Mama, there really is a heart of hearts. And she was like, I knew it. There's really a heart of hearts. So when somebody is not being truthful, she always says, you know, in your heart of hearts that that's not true. And it's like, I've been telling her that she's right, redeeming my childhood ignorance the whole 2020. I'm like, Mama, you were right. You're right about the world being nasty and full of germs. You were right. The whole thing is just a germ. It's just a germ globe. She's like, I told you. So the final brain is our gut brain. Did you know that inside the walls of our stomach, in the lining of our stomach, literally in our gut, there are these cells called epithelial cells. And when our body likes what we're doing, and we like where we are, and we like what we're experiencing, those epithelial cells send serotonin through our entire bloodstream, through our stomach. And that's when we get the euphoric feeling all over. When you bite into your favorite food and you just say, oh my goodness, when you are in a different place and you're like, I've never been here before, but this feels like home. When you're with somebody and y'all just can't stop giggling, right? Your gut is working as its own brain, sending and processing information saying, hey, I like this. We need to do this more often. Conversely, when your gut does not like where you are or what we're doing or what we're eating, our gut sends out through those same epithelial cells adrenaline and cortisol, the stress hormones, telling us, hey, we don't like this. And so when you get that eerie feeling, when you actually feel sick to your stomach, when you have an immediate aversion, when you have that lurch in your stomach, or when you hear news that makes you feel like the air has been punched out of you, that is your gut brain talking to you saying, we don't like this. And how often do we move throughout life completely unacknowledging these brains, right? So what I want us to do is I want us to look at these brains and begin to notice how our intelligent design is already working for us so that we can begin to leverage it and truly begin to utilize all of the information that our bodies have for us as power, as knowledge, as wisdom, and supercharge our contributions with the wisdom that we already have. There are ways that we can trust our own bodies. My friend Andrea Mosley Scott, who is she's a psychotherapist, she's a coach. She has a business called Beautiful Souls. She says all the time, your body will never lie to you. Your body will never lie to you. Whether or not we are awake to the messages of our body and whether we facilitate clear messaging of our body is one thing. But whether or not our bodies will tell us the truth is completely non-negotiable. These brains are always processing the truth, using the senses to observe information and take information in, and then using sensations, using our own design to communicate messages back to us about what is happening and what our response can be, okay? So all of us have all three of these brains, okay? All of us use all three of our brains. However, each and every person utilizes one of their brains as a primary understanding of how the world is working. And then we integrate the other two as secondary and third sources of intelligence. However, all of us have a primary intelligence center or brain that we use first. The work that we want to try and begin today is understanding how we can best leverage and listen to all of our brains for a balanced and integrated understanding and a response, okay? So there are people who are primarily head intelligence, very cerebral intellectual people, and their focus is on details, reasoning, logic, facts. They love how little small details make up these complex systems. So these are the folks who love science. These are the people who love things like physics. These are the people who love things like philosophy and medical data, right? They're not overwhelmed, right, with how these things all work together. Then there are the people who are heart people, and they're really focused on emotions, dreams, the visions that they have, and what's going on in the relationships they have with other people, and very sensitive to the emotions, dreams, and visions of other people. Then there are gut people who are focused on practical action, intuitive and instinctive movement, and direct engagement. So just take a few minutes right now and just think about what kind of intelligence you lean on the most. I need to grab my charger. I thought it was right here and I'm running out of juice. Give me 1 minute. But think about what your primary intelligence is. Do you go to your head first? Do you go to your heart first? Or do you go to your gut first? I'm gonna grab my computer charger and be right back. I'm back. Okay. So now that you've thought about what kind of head person or gut person you are, let's think about the person who has these centers, that has these intelligences, that are using these intelligences primarily. And each of these people have very specific needs as they navigate the world through these intelligence centers, right? So the head person or the thinking person, that person is always seeking competency, always seeking to make sure that they know what it is they know. Make sure they have all the information, all the details, all of the information necessary for them to feel like they have all of the details that they need. They need to be competent at whatever it is they're participating in. Heart people, people who are primarily using their heart brain, need connection. They're constantly evaluating how connected they are with the people around them. And even some of the professional endeavors that these heart people are embarking on are still deeply connected to the relationships of the people that they are around them. And so they're constantly thinking about what they can do to increase the quality of, increase the intimacy of, increase the joy, increase the fulfillment in their relationships. And then gut people, they're those practical, action-oriented people are constantly in search of ways that they can be in control. And it's important to note that the people who are constantly thinking about actions and being practical and really solving problems by doing, these people don't want to control other people. They just don't want to be controlled. They want to be in control of themselves, be in control of their environment, be in control of their experience. So as I'm explaining these needs, you may start to think about people and be like, yeah, that's her. Yeah, that's my cousin. Because, I want to encourage you to stay with yourself. Notice yourself. Okay? So let's talk about the go-to emotions that happen when these needs are disrupted. Okay? When these needs are disrupted, when our head people, when our people who primarily use their head intelligence, feel like they don't have the competency or the information that they need to be competent, they start to experience a fear or worry that expresses itself as anxiety. When the people who are really heart forward and deeply, deeply interested in connection, when that connection is disrupted, those people feel a distress or panic rooted in shame. And it's important to know that head people are extremely fast at synthesizing information, extremely good at understanding and remembering all of the logic and details. And when those logic and details are not as clear to them, this is when that anxiety kicks in. Our heart people have like an internal thermometer for emotions. They know the emotional state and content of people around them in a minute. They can tell by a text message what somebody else is feeling and going through. They can just call you out of the blue and be like, what's wrong? Why are you crying? And you're like, how did you know? From across town, from across the world, they can sense into what the people that they love are feeling, right? And when that connection is disrupted, they start to feel a distress or a panic that's rooted in shame. Why am I not enough? Why am I not blank enough for this relationship to be closer than it is, right? Gut or instinctive brain people, these people who are very practical, action-oriented, who seek to be in control of their experience, their environment, of their own bodies, this autonomous experience. When they feel like they're being controlled, when their need for being in control of their own experience is disrupted, they experience anger or rage. It's so interesting to be thinking about this. Think about it like this. If you're still kind of wondering, well, which person am I? Because I feel all of these. I feel anxiety, I feel rage, I feel panic, I feel them all. Think about it like this. Our intelligence centers are developed early in our childhood, very early in our childhood holding environments. Where we experience disruption or interruption is where we overdevelop in our intelligence centers, okay? So think of it like a 3-room house. And if someone, say you got your house and it's got 3 rooms and you got all your 3 rooms laid out, decked out, your house is great. You come and go every day, it's the same. And then someone breaks into that house, into one of those rooms. Someone come off mute and just tell me what you would do after realizing that someone has broken and entered into one of those rooms. Just real quick.
I'd lock that room so they
Lock
couldn't
it
get
up.
into the other ones.
Okay, somebody would lock it up. Okay, that's good. Is that you, MG?
In the house.
I recognize your voice. Okay, somebody else come off mute and tell me, what would you do to that one room that got broken into? What would your relationship with that room be now?
Hi, my name is Laura. This is actually something I think about obsessively. I analyze every space I'm ever in. And
Okay,
if
okay,
I
okay.
needed an escape, how would I escape? So not only would I lock that door if it didn't limit my options, but I'm always looking for the combat and the escape out.
There you go.
To
Laura,
all,
you are on the money. So what happens for all of us in our 3-room house, our head, our heart, and our gut townhouse, right? Think of your body like a 3-room townhouse, right? You got your head, you got your heart, you got your gut, 3 stories. When someone breaks into one of those rooms, meaning if we experience trauma or disruption in our early childhood years in one of those rooms, not only do we fortify that room, not only do we create escapes for that room, but we overanalyze every single part of that room to make sure that nobody ever breaks in there again. We know how the furniture is supposed to be. We know how the curtains are supposed to lay. We know what the door looks like if somebody has jiggled it too hard. We know what the windows are supposed to look like and if they've been open recently. We become experts on that room. The same is true for our intelligence centers. Head people sometimes experience some kind of disruption in their belief system when they're very young. They are thinking one thing and then trauma or interruption happens to completely shatter their belief system. And so they become experts as a defense mechanism. Heart people got disrupted somewhere in their relationship. They experienced a traumatic surprise of a relationship not connecting the way that they thought it would as little kids. And as little kids, we develop this. Now we're going to become an expert on our relationships, and we're going to make sure that that never happens again by being so intelligently, intuitively connected to everybody else that we can supersede a traumatic disruption in our relationships, right? And gut people experience trauma in the area of their bodies. They were probably forced to do something that they weren't ready to do, did not want to do, made to move around or grow up in a way that was inappropriate for their years. Maybe their living environment was inconsistent. Something happened to those gut people and they overdevelop in the area of environmental sensitivity, and they become overly developed in the area of instinct and understanding the most sensitive changes in their immediate environment. And then they respond to those changes. Their gut lets them know even faster than their actual brain lets them know, right? And so it's important to know that the disruptions that happened that helped us to overdevelop in these areas is a gift wrapped in calamity. Because now this is where our discernment is. If you've ever wondered, where is my area of discernment? Where is my area of instinct and inspiration and intuition? If you're recognizing that you use one intelligence primarily, and then you bring in the other two, that area of intelligence is where your discernment is. It's where you are most strong. So you want to just stop and just notice that. If you're a head person and people tell you to get out your head, you're overthinking things, tell them, no, I'm not overthinking things. I'm a superhero in my brain. I have a 6-pack in my brain, right? If you're a heart person and people say, get out your feelings, you're always emotional. You always wear your heart on your sleeve. Say, no, my heart on my sleeve is a superpower. Don't tell me that anymore. My heart on my sleeve is a good thing. It's beating, it's receptive. I'll be able to connect with the frequency of other people's emotions. It's a superpower. Don't tell me that anymore. Reject that. And gut people, if people say that you're too impulsive, you just do things without thinking, say, no, I am thinking. I'm thinking faster than you because my gut is a brain and my gut is telling me what to do.
Can I say something?
Yes.
I feel like I'm 33% for all of them because that's how I
Okay.
operate. I don't know if one
That's
is,
great.
I feel like I think I'm, and I feel like sometimes that's why I'm all over the place, but then I'm like, no, I'm not really all over the place. I'm just going with the flow, what needs to happen at that moment. So is that a possibility to be 33% per each factor or each bullet? And that 1%, it's like,
Possibility.
you know.
I think it's a possibility. I think that there is also a possibility that one of your intelligences is so automatic for you that you may not even notice until you think more about it. So what I would say for you is think about the you see these go-to emotions. Which of these go-to emotions do you experience the fastest, the quickest, first? Which one do you go to first? Do you go to anxiety first? Do you go to kind of distress or panic, rooted in shame first, or do you go to anger or rage first?
Gut.
Because the where you go first and kind of that automatic response is a good way to gauge which of your intelligences you're kind of resting in. Think of it like a 3-leg stool. One of those legs is a little bit longer than the other 2 legs.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so here is something interesting to think about. Is this philosopher, mystic, writer named Henry Nouwen has developed these 3 lies of human identity, and this is where we get in trouble in our intelligence center. So this is another good way to think about where you are dominant, right? There are some lies of human identity that we automatically start to assume on a daily basis that we have to then stop and breathe and unravel, right? And call out as an incorrect belief. And all of us think and believe all of these lies, right? However, our intelligence center that we primarily use indicates which one of these we struggle with the most. And head people are constantly worried about their value, being connected to what they know or what they have. So I am what I know or what I have. When we know that information and value are not one and the same, but the head people sometimes get a little tripped up into thinking, I am what I know or I have. Heart people, feeling people, they think, man, I am what others say or think about me. So if these relationships are not going well, if people are not thinking and speaking well of me, I'm not well. I'm not a good person. I'm not a good blank friend, mother, coworker, right? And gut people can fall into the trap of believing I am what I do. And the work of creativity and living and contributing now becomes exchanged for the work of managing these lies, of managing other people's opinions of us, managing our own images, managing our scorecard of what we got done today. And doesn't that just sound exhausting? If you are exhausted by this, just throw a reaction on your little icon, right? And then lastly, these are the beautiful ways that our own emotions, these emotional go-tos that we experience, these are amazing ways for us to mine those emotions for information to be used for our contribution. These head people, when we start to feel anxiety, that means that there is an inconsistency or an unknown that can be explored, right? Heart people, when we start to experience that shame, there are some unfulfilled connection goals, missed opportunities. There is a deeper longing that is connected to that relationship that is beneath the desire to connect with that person. So you may be able to skip the failed connection to get to the deeper desire if you allow yourself to feel that shame and allow it to illuminate what's really going on. And then the gut people, when we experience the anger, that rage, that means that a human right or a boundary has been crossed. And oftentimes we don't even know our own boundaries until somebody crosses them. We don't know that we don't like sharing our clothes until a little sister comes in and sticks her armpits in one of our sweaters. And we're like, oh, wait a minute, I don't share those, you know? And it's important to understand too that these go-to emotions, this anxiety, this shame and anger, this is the topsoil of our emotional multiverse that means that we can explore what's going on for us in a more deep way. So that anxiety, shame, and anger are the immediate emotions that when we start to dig underneath, that anxiety may reveal itself as anger. Shame may reveal itself as embarrassment, as loneliness, as grief. anger, if we dig into that anger, if we sit with that anger, if we allow that anger, it may reveal itself as deep sadness or longing or regret. So it's important for us to understand the emotions because our American culture and our global culture, for many of us as global citizens, teaches us to move through these emotions as quickly as possible. Don't show these emotions. Do not cry at work. Do not show your anger if you are a woman. Do not communicate and admit anxiety or demonstrate any kind of shame, because these things make you less powerful, right? However, the information that is within these emotions can supercharge our creative input. So what I want us to do now is I want us to go into some breakout groups really quickly. And I just want you to just talk about like, hey, what am I awakening to as I listen to these intelligence centers? What am I learning about myself? How am I seeing my own experience and my own emotions differently? Learning that my intelligence centers live in 3 parts of my body, that I use one more than the others, and that it is the area of discernment and intuition for me, and that there's information in my emotions, there's information in my anxiety, in my shame, and in my anger that can take me deeper and connect me to the people that I want to connect with better if I allow those emotions and use them as ways to glean more honest and authentic information about what's really going on with me and how I can reflect that as what may be going on for other people. So go into your breakout groups. We're going to send you into breakout groups right now and talk through that. You get 2 minutes per person. We'll tell you when to switch. We back. Okay, y'all, come off mute and just share what you and your partner realized, awakened to, started to discover, or even welcome as you heard me talk about these intelligence centers. Like popcorn, pop, 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 pop. Just come off mute and share.
Well, I know I'm not crazy. I know that the way I operate is the way I operate, and I just know I'm not crazy.
Nope,
I'm
you're not
unique.
crazy. Crazy is dismissive. Crazy is what people call other people when they don't want to listen to what they have to say sometimes. So you're not crazy.
We talked about a little bit about how COVID has changed some of our reactions, or at least unchecked them, so to speak, because there were 2 guts in our group, and we both said that we felt anger. Yeah. So, like more often than previously. So if that makes sense.
Ah, so good. That's so good. Anybody else? Come off mute. Pop off mute real quick and just share what you've been realizing, learning. That's so good.
Great day, everyone. Thank you to my partner. It's lovely, Danielle. I know it's a little bit noisy where I am, but I absolutely identify with the gut and then I guess the brain, the gut first and then the brain. Those intelligent centrals are very, I guess, responsive, if you will. They're highly intelligent.
Yeah. And so knowing this, thank you for sharing that. And knowing this about ourselves, the thing that we can do, sorry, got a little ahead. The thing that is important when we're talking about creating wellness, but first we have to understand where our alarm clocks are, right? To signal dis-ease, to signal dissonance, to signal this difference between what we're experiencing and what we really want to experience. We have to be able to listen to these things and say, okay, I'm feeling anxiety. I'm feeling a little bit of shame. I'm feeling pretty angry right now. Let me stop and acknowledge that feeling. Because what will happen is we'll actually begin to welcome those feelings and use them as a way to contribute instead of losing control of them in a way that is destructive, right? And so one of the things that I love is this little diagram that is a monk named Thomas Keating who created this little diagram to explore the human experience of what he called the false self, meaning this person that we present to the public that is constantly campaigning. And so if you look at the little dotted line, underneath the dotted line are what he calls our programs for happiness, right? Power and control, esteem and affection, security and survival. And these may look familiar because they correlate well with the core needs of the head, heart, and the gut. Head people need competency, right? That competency lets them know that they're going to survive and remain secure. Gut people need that control over themselves and their environment. And then heart people need esteem and affection. But these are present needs for all of us. We all need these things, right? And so below this kind of line that represents like our consciousness, we have these programs for happiness. We have these things that we need to secure in order to be happy. So then we go into our consciousness. Now, this is our day-to-day experience. We have in our conscious waking day-to-day movement these preferences and these things that we definitely do not prefer that are attachments and aversions. And these attachments definitely get us the power and control, the esteem and affection, and the security and survival that we need. These are definitely places that we go. These are definitely places that we shop at. These are definitely people that we talk to. These are definitely things that we collect. These are definitely experiences that are go-to experience. One of my attachments is fries. I don't know what you're gonna do. I don't know what he gonna do. I don't know what she gonna do. But I know these fries, fresh out the grease, are gonna be the same, right? I know that the consistency, the salty, the crunchiness, is gonna satisfy me, right? So we all have our attachments. Yours may not be fries. You may be healthier than me. But we all have our attachments. And then we have our aversions, things that we don't do. We don't go there. These are not our people. We don't eat these foods. We don't go these places. We don't have these experiences. We reject these experiences because we believe that they will prevent us from experiencing our emotional programs for happiness. Now, these attachments and aversions are these curated schedules, these paths that we go, these things that we definitely plan into our day, and it forms kind of a hidden agenda. We aren't extremely conscious for the reason why we do these things. We just know that we're going to get a result from what we're doing. They're not good, they're not bad, they're just kind of beneath the surface. And then one of those things doesn't do what it says what we think they're supposed to do. We experience life kind of like a play, and one of our actors doesn't say their lines. One of our props doesn't do its job, right? We experience an event that is different than what we thought was going to happen, that triggers us and creates 5, frustration, shame rooted, that distress or that panic rooted in shame, anger or rage, anxiety, right? And guess where we are right now? Guys, we're here. We're at 5A. We're at the place where the cycle can be broken and where we can actually begin to master our experience and supercharge our creative output using these frustrating, triggering events as ways to better understand, have compassion for, and know ourselves, and maybe even other people. But if we don't, here's what happens. We experience an afflictive emotion like, oh man, that didn't happen the way I wanted it to, or that just really hurt me, upset me, scared me. And then we create an internal dialogue and we double down. Because of our emotional turmoil, we double down on our programs and we create more attachments and aversions, and the cycle just continues. But where we are right now in this space at 2:05 p.m. Central Standard Time is we are in the space where the cycle can be broken by integrating our intelligences, creating space for wellness, and allowing our emotions to become alarm clocks and encyclopedias for the kind of change, for the kind of beauty, for the kind of love, the kind of good that we want to contribute. My teacher, Marianne Gilbert, who is a physical therapist, and she has extensive training in craniosacral therapy, somato-emotional release, and trauma resolution. She helps people take the emotional energy that they have collected that has turned into injury, disease, and inability. She helps people move that through and out of their bodies and experience their bodies in new ways, okay? And she talks about metabolizing your emotions. Can someone come off mute and read the definition of metabolize for me?
metabolize, to change food into a form that can be used by your body to process and use substances brought into your body by metabolism.
Beautiful. Thank you. So while we understand metabolism as it refers to how we eat and how our body changes food into nutrients, into these amino acids that build protein, into these sugars that, right, that do all these things in our bodies, the same approach can be taken with our emotions. And this is how we cultivate an inner environment of wellness. And once we start to notice those emotions, we can actually start to check in with all of our intelligence centers. So gut people, you can use your anger, and then you can bring in your heart and bring in your head and say, okay, I'm feeling angry about this situation. What does my heart say? What is my heart, what does my connective instinct say? And then you can bring that logic of your head into it and say, okay, now my gut is feeling something. My gut is telling me something. My heart is feeling something. Let me bring the logic of my mind in to either confirm and validate what my gut is saying, or bring balance with truth and real information. Because sometimes our gut responds without the brain and the heart, and it's an overreaction, right? Sometimes we get so wrapped up in logic that we forget to factor in our relationships and the emotional value of our connections. This therapist on this show that I look called Insecure asked one of the characters, do you want to be right or do you want to be in relationship? Sometimes our logic and our emotions can balance each other, right? And then sometimes people who are emotional, heart on your sleeve, bleeding heart for everyone, we need to check in with our gut and we need to check in with our head to make sure that we're not overextending ourselves in a way that leaves us deprived, depleted, and bereft, right? So there's a way to understand and connect with all of that. And first thing is to think about metabolizing our emotions. So Marianne says, by the time that we're adults, many undercover energy pockets have been created in our physical bodies, even though all these can go for a long time unnoticed. These will eventually come to the surface when the cost to maintain them becomes greater, as the pattern requires more and more energy to sustain themselves. Y'all just think about that. The cost of suppressing our anger requires more energy than just releasing it and facing it. The cost of suppressing our emotions and ignoring how we feel in favor of what everybody else wants, right, becomes more energetically expensive than just sharing what's going on emotionally. The cost of being right and having all of our facts, hoarding our facts, becomes more expensive than being with the people that we want to be with, right? And begins to cost us in other areas. So Marianne goes on to say, especially over time, when the pattern continues to get reinforced by subsequent experiences. So we just, those emotional programs, right? We just double down because the thing keeps happening. The aversion, the attachment, we just keep doubling down. An accumulative effect that adds to the contained charge, resulting in each life experience being only partially processed. These formations can disturb the neurobiological processes and cause physical, emotional, and mental dysfunction, and eventually can lead to illness. To fully metabolize these contained, overwhelmed pockets, one must first know that these pockets are there. So what we're going to move into now is a time to use different practices to notice where we are, to begin to release some of the energy in those pockets, and to bring ourselves into some rest, to tap into all of our intelligence centers and begin to create spaces of wellness for ourselves and develop a vocabulary of needs. What does wellness look like for us? What do we need to sustain that wellness? So that we can then bundle all of what we're noticing, learning, and experiencing and infuse it into how we're serving, how we're teaching, how we're creating, how we're communicating, how we're modeling and being an exemplar of wellness for other people. All right. So I want you to just think about these questions as we move into these practices. How do you process your anxiety? What do you do with your emotions? If you are like me and had never heard of metabolizing your energy before hearing this today, then there are some pockets of energy, some pockets of emotion, some pockets of stress, some pockets of emotion, some pockets of anger that you can create wellness by addressing. And as you address it, what you learn and realize and how it connects to the human experience that we all share can, again, supercharge your work. The first thing I want us to do is I want us to come to a comfortable seat, and I'm going to take us through a couple of practices. The first is called heart math, okay? So again, come to that comfortable seat, come to your chair. We're going to do some breathing exercises, right? And start that deep breathing that I shared with you earlier, in through the nose and out through the nose, okay? Fogging up that mirror, in through the nose, out through the nose, okay? And this is called heart math. And the Heart Math Institute created this. It was a coalition of psychologists. Continue to breathe as I explain this to you. Psychologists and cardiologists who understood that there was a connection between the head brain and the heart brain. So that deep diaphragmatic breathing that I had you do, and that those 3 deep breaths where you breathe in, you breathe out, you fog up the mirror, is because it takes between 11 to 14 seconds to breathe in and out 3 times. And scientifically, research indicates that it takes 11 to 14 seconds for your head and your heart to process new information. So if you get punched in the face and the person goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I punched you in the face." Ooh. And then right after they say they're sorry, you still want to punch them back. That's because there hasn't been enough time between the initial punch and the "I'm sorry" for your head and your heart to catch up. But if while holding your nose, you did those 3 deep diaphragmatic breaths in through the nose and out through the nose, in about 14 seconds, you may be in a more clear-minded space to be able to hear the person apologizing. Now, you may still want to punch them back, but after that 14 seconds, your head and your heart will have communicated and helped you begin to make sense of what the person in front of you is saying. Okay? Now, don't go punch somebody and try this. Do not leave this workshop and say, "I have an experiment." Boop. Okay, let's wait 14 seconds and see if you know how sorry I am. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't tell them I sent you if you do. Okay. But just know that, like, there is a with the intelligence and the design of our bodies, there is also recovery time and ways to recover from trauma. So this is called the quick coherence technique. And the quick coherence technique was developed as a way for folks to immediately create space where they become logical and consistent by utilizing the breath and by making that connection between their head and their heart intentionally. So everybody come to that comfortable seat, start to breathe in and out, in through the nose, out through the nose. It should sound like an ocean. It should sound like an ocean, in through the nose. Now I want you to place your right hand over your heart. Place your left hand over your heart. And then just breathe in and out. And I want you to imagine those breaths. Imagine your lungs organizing those gases and sending that breath to the heart. And imagine your heart swelling and then contracting and sending that oxygen all over your body. Just imagine your heart doing that. And then I want you to imagine every organ receiving that oxygen and every part of your body being fully set up to work properly. And then shifting your mind's eye to a memory of a time where you felt deep appreciation or that you were making a contribution. Breathing in through the nose, Out through the nose. Okay, Madeline. Thank you for joining us. Remember that time where either you have a memory of deep appreciation or that you know you were making a contribution. Go to that memory, relive those details. What were the aromas in the air? Who was there? What did the room look like? How did the light fall? Continuing to breathe. Walk through the experience of the contribution you made or the appreciation, the thing that you are glad for. Feel that gladness. Continuing to breathe. For me, that memory is when I was finally able to nurse my daughter after months and months of difficulty breastfeeding. It's like, oh, yes, finally, you know? Such appreciation, such gladness. Relive that gladness. Take a few more breaths. And then just quickly pop off mute and tell me what's different in your bodies. Anybody have a feeling of just anything different? More calm, more alert? You want to go to sleep? You want to run out the room? What do you want to do?
It seems quieter.
Quieter, okay.
More aligned.
More aligned, very good.
I feel
Happy.
happier.
Very relaxed.
Very relaxed, great.
Refreshed for sure.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So what you guys just did with that quick coherence technique is you guys brought your head, your heart, and your gut into one aligned experience. Using deep breath, using visualization, you visualize in your head brain, you talked to your emotions, your heart brain, and then you start to experience your gut brain sending those serotonin and oxytocin molecules through your epithelial cells. You all just told your body what to do instead of your body acting and then you kind of following behind it, right? So this is one unique wellness practice that we can engage, particularly when we're triggered and frustrated, which I know people who are artists and people who have children and people who are professionals, I know you never get frustrated or triggered in your life, but if you do, if you know somebody who does, this is a practice for you, and you just did it in under 90 seconds. You placed your hand over your heart. You started that deep diaphragmatic breathing, and then you imagined a moment of appreciation that had a real-time effect. Even though it happened in the past, it had a present effect on your literal chemistry of your body. Imagine how our responses would be different if we did this before hard conversations. If we did this before we sat down to write or paint or create or report or speak or teach, how would our contributions be different if we just took this 90-second break? And let me show you what happened in your body. You probably already saw it because my screen was going crazy. What we just did with that diaphragmatic breathing is we activated the vagus nerve, which is a component of our parasympathetic nervous system. So that's the rest and digest system. So when you did that breathing and you went through your nose and you fogged up that mirror, you actually sent an impulse to the vagus nerve, which is really near your throat, the back of that throat. And that vagus nerve got stimulated, and you sent a message to every single organ, every single system that you have to rest and digest, because that vagus nerve connects to every single system, even down to our reproductive organs. So every single function in your body received information in that 90 seconds of breathing. You just created parasympathetic innervation in your body. Now the opposite is sympathetic innervation. That is when you experience those fight or flight, when you experience those triggers, when we experience our aversions and our attractions, the things that we're attracted to, the things that we're attached to, when we experience those triggering events, those frustrating events, that's sympathetic innervation. I don't want to talk too much about that because I don't want to start creating it in your body. But the place where we are to break the cycle is right here. We can create synergy and alignment between our head, our heart, and our gut that then changes our contribution. It creates appreciation. And when we have a piece of property or a car and it appreciates, it grows in value. When we grow our internal environment, these actual organs, when we do that coherence technique and we create what's called appreciation, we actually grow the value, increase the value inside of our bodies. And then our creation, our contribution increases the value of our environments. So that's one really quick wellness practice that I wanted to be something that you could do quickly, remember easily, that would create an immediate change in your body. So with a few more minutes left, I want you guys to ask me any questions or share any kind of new thing that you have experienced during our time together.
I really like how you're. Oh,
Go ahead. Who is that?
Okay.
I really like. Who said that?
It was two of us trying to start at one time. I didn't catch who the other person was.
Okay. Well, go ahead, T, and then the next person, you go after T.
Okay. I was thinking with the whole three brain centers that if my therapist knew this, then we could have been down the road quite some time ago, because it definitely resonates. And I went through a myriad of situations that I've encountered that, connecting the three has been a beautiful experience. So thank you.
And I want you to, especially if you are thinking about your contribution, again, we're all creators, no matter what you're creating. I want you to recognize that what you notice and allow is fuel for your contribution. Policies get changed when human boundaries get crossed. New insight gets experienced when we notice that anxiety, that there's more to discover. And when we recognize that there is a longing or a desire that is beneath that connection, we expedite our journeys towards receiving what we are longing for or desiring. We're no longer using the relationship as a substitute. We're able to get right there or create that thing for us as we understand what's really going on with us. So there's ways for us to really lean into and sense into what our bodies are telling us through our intelligences, and then check in with the other intelligences. Like, okay, I know I'm a gut person, so I'm I want control and I'm feeling angry. Let me check in with my heart. Let me check in with my head. And after checking in with all of these centers, then I will respond to what's happening in my environment. And that can happen in a few minutes. What else, guys?
I was going to say, like, that how much I appreciate how much you're modeling all of this. Like, your explanation is really tying in lots of different things. And like, there's all these things that are like intellectually connecting to things that like my gut knew. And how you're making such a contribution and you're doing it in such a gentle, I really like your humility too. And so like, I just feel like you're really modeling all of this that you're teaching. And that's really inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you for saying that. And what I want more than anything is for us to experience all of the beauty and the abundance that happens when we metabolize our emotions instead of suppressing it. When we metabolize what we're experiencing instead of ignoring it, right? And so the work that I've done is because I had kind of an identity crisis where I was believing all of those lies of identity, and I really needed to come in contact with the truth that I'm not what I do, that I'm not what I have or what I know, and I'm not what others say or think about me. Well, then who am I if I'm not those things? The journey to understanding who I really am is something that has been really rewarding. And in my work, I actually teach a confusion to clarity curriculum that helps people to understand personality type and skills assessment to be able to really develop a clear understanding of who we are, so that we go from noticing ourselves to mastering ourselves, and then welcoming all of the parts of ourselves that we used to try and suppress in an attempt to be normal. So thank you for saying that. And I also want this for all of us. Okay, we got 4 minutes left. Any other questions, burning comments, things that are present that were that are coming up for you?
Aurora said, reminding me of how important it is to refocus on our body and mind connection.
Mm-hmm. And that the basis of reconnecting with our body-mind connection is a great sifter for what we're doing. So this wellness journey that we just talked about in the very beginning, that looks so different for everybody, but being conscious of what our head, our gut, and our hearts and our guts are saying to us will give us such clear information about what we need to do to create wellness in our own bodies and in our own environments. Now, go ahead.
A quick question. So when we're creating this synergy with the exercise that we just did, the breathing exercise that we just completed, are we always to reflect on a moment when we were courageous or we felt like we were contributing? Is that the only imagery that we can pull to the front, or are there other imageries or scenarios that will help produce the exact same the outcome that we experienced today?
You know, I love to think about gratitude, appreciation, and contribution, because those are the quickest ways to access those positive, happy hormones. When you remember, that word remember, it literally means to reattach, like our body member. When we remember, we reattach members, right, to our body. Like when we remember those moments of contribution, of appreciation, of gratitude, those details and those visions create immediate receptivity, and our brain starts to just send out that serotonin, that oxytocin, those happy healing hormones. Our brain just surges when we go to those things. So in my research and in the research of the Heart Math Institute, those are the quickest ways to access that. However, I would encourage you to experiment. You could do some visualization of some things that you want to happen, and visualize them as though they have already happened, and experience that gratitude. You can access however you want to access serotonin and oxytocin, and get your brain to start sending those hormones out, and get your heart and your gut to start pumping those things through your entire body. I think would be really a great experiment for you.
Thank you.
Any final thoughts, comments, or just things you want to share? What's present with what you've realized? I'd love to hear this. Thank y'all. So you have
I guess one other thing.
Workbooks as well. Everybody got your workbook. So you can continue this work in your workbooks. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, I think as artists and as people who work for nonprofits, so much of what we're doing, we're thinking about, oh, how can I change the world? But I think this really does bring up that if, we really need to like radiate out from like, how do we change ourselves? And then how do we change the world?
Mm-hmm. Start with what you have, and start with who you know, and the ripple effects will go beyond your wildest imagination, right? Just think about all the artwork that has made its way all across generations in the world and time and space. That person did not have a clue of how it would get to us. They just started with what they had, with their own personal experience, with their anger, with their shame, with their stress, with their anxiety. And they just started creating in response to their own story and their own experience. And it connected with, humanity. And so I will always encourage you to start with where you are, Start with what you got and start with who you have. All right. Well, Karis, we're at 2:31. I am so grateful for the folks who are still with us. I know some folks had to pop off a little early. We are in the middle of a workday in a pandemic. So I appreciate everybody who has hung out with us and maintained and listened to all this weirdo talk about breathing and meadows, swallowing up stuff. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me.
Hey, we enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, and I think it was great. Thank you all for coming. Where do we go to anymore? But thank you all for coming. We will have a recording of this on the MA website. I will be sure to send out an email to you all. I also sent out the workbook either early this morning or late last night. Who knows what time is these days? But if you need another copy, or if you didn't get that email, you just send me one, and I will make sure I get it to you. All right. Alrighty, everyone. Please have a great day.